as you probably know, Korean president has been impeached in December. The reason for impeachment was insurrection. Korea is going through political turmoil, and it's very, very chaotic because Korean president who declared the martial law, 3rd of December. Martial law is a temporary presidential order that once the martial law is declared, constitutional governing of a government stops. Whatever the emergency measures that the president declares replaces the Constitution. And then martial law is declared when president decides that the constitutional governing of a country is not possible. But the legislative body, which is a national parliament of Korea, they don't believe so. They think it is unconstitutional. They think he has no power to declare the martial law unilaterally, which is wrong. So he exercised the constitutional right that's given to him. The national parliament, which is occupied by almost 2/3 opposition members. So the leading party, which is People's Power Party, has only about 1/3 of the National Assembly seat. And some other, a couple of 1 or 2 minor parties together. The impeachment in most countries comes into two folds. One is the impeachment. According to the Korean constitution, once a president is impeached, he still is officially the president. He carries the title of the presidency, but he loses all the executive power and the administrative power he would normally have. And he has to wait until that impeachment is confirmed by constitutional court. Yeah, that is wrong. No one understands why he's in jail. So what's happening right now is extremely unusual. It maybe is constitutional. And that's a big question too. There is an office called Corruption Investigation Office, and that office has absolutely no jurisdiction over presidency. That office is designed to investigate the corruption of high government officials, excluding the president's insurrection. He's being charged because of alleged insurrection, which is he was trying to overturn the government, and he did not try to overturn the government. He himself is the head of the government, so how can he overturn himself? It makes absolutely no sense. So that's why Korea's legal system has been completely collapsed. It's an anarchy right now. There's no law and order or constitutional ruling. It's totally collapsed. The Korean Democrat is now the majority party in the parliament. Number of seats in Korean parliament is 300. And Korean parliamentary system is uni system, which is one body, unlike US system is a bicameral, which has two bodies, lower house and the upper house, which is called Senate in the United States. So everything gets decided by one parliament in Korea, National Assembly. The Democratic Party, which takes roughly around 2/3 of the seats in the parliament, they can do anything they want because they are almost supermajority. So what they did is they impeached the president because they did not like the president. There's absolutely no reason or no illegality that the President Yoon did. Declaring the martial law is totally constitutional. The National Congress, simply because they were able to mobilize a few more seats from the other party, because they were able to get 2/3 vote. Not because the president did anything wrong. And the national parliament argued that the president has no power to declare the martial law. Declaring the martial law, according to Korean Democrats, is insurrection. If you look at the Korean constitution, president has, and president only, has the power to declare the martial law under his own discretion. When you are trying to charge someone, whether that's a government official or any individual, you don't look at whether you like that person or not. You look at what that person did is legal or illegal. What he did is legal, constitutional. But because he's the opposition leader, the leaders in the Korean National Parliament, which is Korean Democrats, they just don't like him. So there is absolutely no way for the Korean Democrats to do anything against the president. So they just use the supermajority. He says, oh, we're a supermajority, so we can impeach them. He didn't do anything wrong to impeach, so let's insist that is illegal. And then that's what they did. The party that broke the Constitution is the Korean Democrats. He actually sent a letter a couple of times. He spoke to the people of South Korea several times. And the latest one is through the written letter yesterday. In that letter, he explained it very well. I just read it this morning. There were a lot of allegations, election fraud. There was a general election in 2024. And 2022, right before any elections, you have feelings and national sentiments and trends and the poll numbers, right? The result of the national parliament election was very, very different from the poll numbers. Even the left-wing party or even the leftist media was reporting that people favored by a large percentage the leading party. But the result of the national parliament election was quite contrary. It's not possible. That's mathematically impossible. The poll numbers before the national election, consistently over a year, People's Power Party, which is the leading party, the party of the president, was leading by at least 5 to 10%, almost all over the country. But the result was totally the opposite. People couldn't make of it. They just couldn't understand how this is possible. A lot of people began questioning about the integrity of the voting system and potentially election fraud. There has been a lot of requests by not only the national parliament members of the leading party, but also citizen groups. And they said, we need to check the voting system. And there is a governmental body called National Election Commission. And they're the one who's in charge of operating the elections, votings, and counting the votes. And they have been refusing to be investigated. They said, nobody can investigate us. We're above the law. We're like God. No one can check what we did. That's actually what they said. They said there's no individual or organization or even the government cannot investigate us. This is the National Election Commission who runs the election, who counts the vote. And then the Democrats are basically saying, yes, they're right. President Yoon says when people want to know what's going on inside the National Election Commission, we need to investigate you. So the President Yoon and his party and a lot of citizen groups, they filed at the court for the search warrant. The search warrant has been systematically denied by courts. There were numerous times that they applied for the search warrant. But it's been denied by courts because the court judges are the members of the National Election Commission. There's absolutely no check and balance. So it is like a Kim Jong-un's system in North Korea. Yeah, there's no check and balance, and whatever they say is the law. Korean Democratic Party in the national parliament is on their side. So they're all together except the president. A lot of people indifferent to the politics. They thought the Korea was being developed into an advancing country. Everybody was hunky-dory and they're happy. They did not know what was going on. They didn't know the North Korean and Chinese infiltration deep into the institutions like in academia or the media, even military and the National Congress. It was only the president, he knew it. And then there was absolutely no way for the president to deliver that message to the people. He had absolutely no other choice but to declare the martial law. When he declared the martial law, a lot of people were waking up. They're saying, what the heck is going on right now? Why the president in a seemingly beautiful, advancing country, why the heck he has to declare the martial law? He must be crazy. But then he was saying, we requested a search warrant for the National Election Commission, and National Election Commission says basically, we're above the law. Nobody can check us. Whatever the election results that we announce, you have to accept. The justification that they gave to the Korean people in the very beginning was that we're not government body. We're a private institution. That's why government has no right to check us. Government can only investigate the government offices, and we're not fully governmental office. But that's a lie too. That is a semi-governmental office. What kind of country in the world would ask a private company or private organization that's non-governmental, that has no investigative body, that does not have to get a governmental investigation, to have a national election operations or the vote counts? It is not a private organization because that body is run by the people's tax. So it is a governmental body, but they even lied in the very beginning. They said, we're not a governmental body. military were completely private. That's how little knowledge that the general public, the Koreans, had. Vast majority of the Korean people actually thought that, oh, that's not the governmental body because they said so. A lot of people misconstrued, oh, maybe then they're funded by some non-governmental people organization, right? Which was a lie. It's still not investigated. Instead, when the people think that is very fishy, then we need to open that organization and show it to the people. When the president said that, they put him in jail. After they found out what exactly went on, young people began to support the president's cause. But when it first happened on the 3rd of December last year, people did not know, like I said, why in the world that president would declare the martial law in this seemingly peaceful time. Yeah, that is the political propaganda pushed by Democrats. JTBC is almost like a North Korean broadcasting company. Yeah, JTBC is something that you never want to watch. So if the impeachment goes through at the Constitutional Court, legally, he loses his job as a president, and that's it. He becomes a normal citizen. He shouldn't go to jail. But when you look at what happens right now, he's already in jail. He's already been indicted for no reason. Before the Korean National Parliament passed the bill to impeach him, they made a revision on the impeachment bill. When they first have an impeachment vote, it didn't go through. So he was not impeached. And then they revised the impeachment bill to pass the impeachment bill. So the very first one that they failed, you know what the reason for the impeachment was? The President Yoon likes America and he hates North Korea. That was the reason for impeachment. That was the first impeachment bill. The reason for the Korean National Congress is trying to impeach the Korean president was his policy was pro-American, anti-Chinese, and anti-North Korea. That reveals the identity of Korean Democrats. Korean Democrats are pro-Chinese and pro-North Korea. They're anti-American. In other words, they love the communization of South Korea. South Korea will become exactly like North Korea within a couple of years. South Korea will become a communist country. That's what they want. That's what the Korean Democrats want because they are communists. At least the leadership is. When Korea was independent in 1948, Korea was let go by the Japanese Empire in 1945 because Allies won the World War II. Korean Peninsula, when Allies ordered Japan to surrender, the Soviet Union and the United States were the allies during the World War II. They became enemy after the World War II had ended. When the World War II had ended, U.S. asked Russians to come to northern part of Korea, and then the U.S. troops would come to the southern part of Korea to disarm the Japanese military that were in Korean Peninsula at the time. They were huge in numbers, and there's a big task. So that U.S. needed allies' help, which was Russia at the time. In order to do that, they had to draw the line, which was the 38th parallel line, and that was supposed to be a temporary military demarcation line only for the purpose of disarming the Japanese troops. But that became a permanent border between North and South Korea. It's very, very sad because the relationship between Russia and the United States became sour at that time. So that's why that temporary line became a permanent border. But then North Koreans that were supplied by Soviet Union invaded South Korea, and that's the Korean War. After the Korean War had ended, North Korea became a communist country. It became a satellite state of Soviet Union. South Korea became a free market economy. It became a democratic country. North Korea never changed its national policy to communize South Korea. And South Korea also never changed its constitution or policy to democratize North Korea. The Korean War has stopped for a break, and that became 75 years. So technically speaking, Korea is still at war. It is legal for either party to start the war even tomorrow. So the North Koreans never gave up their dream to communize the entire Korean peninsula, and that's what they were trying to do. In the meantime, South Korea was saved from Japanese imperial rule by Americans. South Korea was defended from the North Korean invasion by Americans. South Korea was established and built and cherished by American support. So the South Koreans themselves actually did not take back the country themselves. They did not build the country themselves. They were able to build the country's economy without worrying too much about the foreign invasion. And the U.S. military is still there. Since the U.S. had fought the war against the Russians and Chinese and North Koreans in Korean Peninsula, they had never left the country. They're still there. That's why Koreans in the last 7 decades did not have to worry about the national defense. They were able to focus on getting rich only. National defense was left up to the Americans and still is to a large extent. If you go back around 35 years ago, Kim Dae-jung became the president. It is him that actually contributed a lot to national election fraud because the first election fraud began in 2002. That was 23 years ago. There was 2 candidates. One is Roh Moo-hyun, who actually became the president later by a fraudulent election. His opponent was candidate Lee Hwae-chang. He served as the supreme judge of the Korean Supreme Court. And he won the election. Then because of the fraudulent election under Kim Dae-jung's government, Roh Moo-hyun was announced as the winner of that election, which was totally wrong. What happened at the time was, if you go all the way back to the very beginning of the Korean election fraud, it has to do with Kim Dae-jung. It is Kim Dae-jung who developed the software of the Korean election machine, together with Pyongyang, together with North Korea. Kim Dae-jung had a policy called Sunshine Policy, which is to include North Korea into a lot of South Korean cultural and economic activities. When South Korea was flourishing, it was becoming industrialized in the 80s and 90s. They did a lot of things together. They were exchanging students, for temporary visits each other, or entertainment groups each other to perform some dances or songs and stuff like that. One of the cultural exchange program has a technology development program. Both Koreas combined North and South Korean IT development project was to establish a joint venture company in China. So there's a small border, North Korean and China borderline city called Dandung. And in Dandung, with the South Korean money, South Korean Kim Dae-jung's government's policy, they established North and South Korea joint venture called Hana Program Center. And Hana Program Center is the IT software and hardware development company funded by Kim Dae-jung's government and the best of the best computer scientists of North Korea. They were the elite best team, top of the top, Kim Jong-il at the time, 2001. Kim Jong-il has chosen 40 top brains sent to Dandung, and there were 10 South Korean employees went there to teach them how to develop softwares and hardwares and stuff like that. So that company actually developed software called NetTool in 2001. There is a Korean company called Dasan Group, one of the Dasan Group's subsidiaries. There is another company called 한국전자투표 주식회사. That's the full name of the company. And they contracted to this joint venture company in China, and they imported that North Korean developed software. And that is the Korean software for the Election Commission. That's why they refused to be investigated. Yeah, you don't really have to go too far. Just look at Cuba, just look at North Korea right now. They're communist countries. Ideologically, what they insist that does not necessarily sound very bad is that we're going to work together, we're going to share it together. But that is against the human nature. If you produce like 10 or 20, whatever that product may be, while your colleague only produces one, obviously want to get more rewards or more benefits because you're more productive, right? But the communist does not recognize the individual differences or efficiencies. They say, we're all together, we're going to do it collectively, we're going to share it collectively, right? But in the end, that does not work. That only encourages the laziness or absenteeism because you're going to get the equal share anyway. Yeah. Why do you have to put more hours or more effort? So it may work in a very short period of time because it seems like it sounds fair, sounds good, equality. That's why DEI collapsed in the United States because it sounds very good in the very beginning, but in the long run, those best performers, right? They say, it's not fair to me. Me, myself alone, I produce 10 times more than any other individuals, but I get the same equal share, right? That's not fair. The reason why America was able to become a best nation in the world in a very short period of time was because a meritocracy is embedded in the American system, whether that's economics or politics or anywhere, even within a microeconomics within the same company. If you perform well, you're going to get paid better. You're going to get promoted faster than the other people. If you're a lazy, average person, then you're going to have an average salary and average promotion. That's why America was able to beat almost any country on earth. And this is the best country in the world because America was built upon the meritocracy, because that is the front line of the democracy. Okay, if the South Korea is collapsed and go into the hands of North Korea, then next would be the Japan. South Korea is at the forefront of defending the democracy. And that is why it is very, very important to have the South Korea prevail in this war against communism. So what's going on in South Korea? Superficially, it may look like Korean Democrats versus Korean Republican, the People's Power Party. They're conservatives. It is not simply what it appears to be. It is actually fighting between the communism and the democracy. Yeah, that's why we have to defend South Korea.